Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be discussing how SHALLTEAR could save the Overlord collab. So we are a couple weeks into it now. We have Ainz, we have Albedo, we have Shizu, and we have the free-to-play Nabe. And the only character we are missing at this point is SHALLTEAR. And we know that she's coming because of a few different reasons. She's on Bond XP, she's conversational, she's got character models, and I mean, it's the Overlord collab. And they've said that she's going to be there anyways. So, first off, to answer everyone's question that I've been seeing pop up all over is when is she actually going to be here? Well, she'll be here after this content preview is over. So if you were not aware, because you're a new player, or you just didn't care, they are now dropping us content in bulk. So between the dates of 2/2 to 2/13, or in my case, it's 2/1 to 2/12 because of release times and how they time everything. Everything that's supposed to come out during this time will come out, and for under maybe very rare circumstances, things will not be added into this preview that is not currently listed. So this is going all the way until the 12th, 13th for most people, which is not for another couple of days as of recording this. So I expect that since this preview ends on the 12th, we could see news about SHALLTEAR that night on the 12th, or potentially even the 13th going into the 14th for some. And if that's the case, then she will drop next Wednesday. So somewhere in this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, we should be able to see at least some news about SHALLTEAR. I kind of expect her to get announced on the 12th when this is ending, and then she will release on the night of the 13th for me at 6 p.m. And, it'll be morning on the 14th for, people in other time zones. But that's when I expect SHALLTEAR to drop in-game, and we'll just have to see how true that ends up being. Also, we're still missing Predator Battle. Like, I don't know why they're waiting so like half a month in to drop Predator Battle, but it's still not here, which is the only way that we can actually awaken Gabiru's skills up to level 10, because otherwise he's just stuck at level 7 for the entire time, which, I mean, sure, I guess. But SHALLTEAR. This is the team, right? This is we don't normally get 5 battle units for a meta, unless it's like the anniversary or something like that. But SHALLTEAR will take this final slot. And that begs the question, will she be good? Because Rimuru is very good. Ainz, on this team, in this specific setup, in this specific meta, he is good. Once the month of February is over, he's out. Like, he's got no value whatsoever, apart from running this team in the future. Shizu is very good. She can run on any green team in the future, because her buffs are very generic, they're unspecialized, they're unspecific, and she's got that triple alt swap to greens, which is going to be good on any green team moving forward. Albedo, as much controversy has come about, is not quite as strong as we wanted her to be, not quite as useful. And part of that stems from being locked to the despair skill that both Ainz and her have, which leads me to assume that SHALLTEAR will also have one of her skills locked to that. And then Albedo's second skill, or first skill, is just, it's weak. It's weak and outdated, but I've discussed that at length already. Nabe is a very, very good orb changer on this team, or surrounded by other Sternospirit characters. But if you take her off of this team, she does not function very well. She turns into a unit with one good skill, and that's an orb change, which you can get off of a lot of other units. So we have really, really good, really, really good, and good on this team, not good, and good on this team. Which is unfortunate, because that means that the 2 best units in the game are not actually Overlord characters. They are Rimuru and Shizu, who are dressed up like Overlord characters, but are not Overlord-specific IP units. And I believe that has begun to irritate some of the community, because Ainz being the DPS, we know that DPS units generally fall off as time goes on, they get replaced because you don't need multiple DPSs on a team that doesn't support him. You need support units that are going to support the next DPS, and so forth and so forth. So we knew that Ainz' time was limited going into this. Albedo, her time, she never even stepped up to the plate, man. She's still looking around in the parking lot for the field. And then Shaltear. Shaltear. What can Shaltear do that could potentially resurrect Albedo and make her better, or just be so strong that we don't even need Albedo, and we can take her out and we can replace her with, Shizuka, because she's really good, or we could place her with Dark Anniversary Milim, because she's really good on this team for Ainz. There's a number of units that Albedo can get swapped out for. But if we want to run the full meta, we want to run Albedo. So, what is Shaltear going to do, potentially, that could increase not only Albedo's value, but the entire team's value in the future? Let's talk about that now. I mean, we're 6 minutes in already. We're now just talking about Shaltear. Sorry, I rant. But Shaltear, as I said, will most likely be locked to that sad despair skill that Ainz and Albedo have. And it's a very sad skill for its effects, but it does have an added benefit of having a third effect right here. Ainz gives green orbs extra protection gauge, and then Albedo gives green orbs extra alt gauge. So green orbs are already getting buffed by Rimuru for skill point gain. So we've got all three facets covered for what green orbs need to give you as extra. Skill points, protection gauge, alt gauge. So Shaltear will not have one of those, right? They don't stack upon each other. So what else could she have that would make her despair skill better? Well, I think that they could do this, where when Albedo was first teased, and it was the start of the Albedo fiasco, is where they put her skill teaser up with the incorrect skill, right? So this is what Albedo actually turned out to be: is the despair 5%, 5%, and then the 50% up for alt gauge on greens. When they first teased it out, it was 10% alt resistance down and 10% stun strike that was permanent. Now, there could be some, course of action where this skill was actually meant for Shaltear and not Albedo, and they just mispasted it onto the Albedo fusion. So, Shaltear might have a slightly better despair skill, where instead of doing the stupid 5% damage, it's just a 10% alt resistance down that's permanent. And then instead of a green gauge, because we're already capped out on that, she could give stun strike, which would then bring a little bit more usefulness and validity to Albedo, who is stunning and giving a temporary stun strike buff. I think that is wishful thinking, but it would make her synergize better with the team and make Albedo more useful, because if she's stacking stun strike, then this stun and this stun strike will actually matter more and more as you use Shaltear's skill over and over and over again. I don't know how realistic it is, because the skill is 30 points, and while it is a better despair with a better effect on it, I think, they've already shown that 2 despair skills are 25 points. So I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen. I think what could actually happen is that Shaltear could just do the typical despair that Albedo and Ainz have, and then give green orb damage for one turn, like 25 or 50% or something like that. And that's going to be what it ends up as, because we don't need any more gauge buffs, we just need green orb damage. And I think that would be the easy way out for the devs to give her despair and make it still not overly good. Sorry. it still wouldn't be very good, even if she did give extra damage on greens, because we have a few units that give extra damage on certain colored orbs. Summer Lumi has extra damage on blue orbs. How much is it? Is it 70% blue damage? And then we have the Hero 2.0, the Light Hero, whatever she is, and she's got 50% orb damage for any orb, all source damage by 50%. So I think it's a realistic thing where she could get that, but then her her first skill, her big time skill, right? Because Albedo does have a quote unquote big time skill, which is the stun. But looking at this, we have stacking element buffs with Rimuru. We have guaranteed crits for the entire team for Ainz, and he gives himself a magic buff, so we're not going to go on that. Shizu is giving ult resistance down and weakness strike. Albedo is giving stun strike and the stun. So what are some of the major big time buffs that this team is missing that we could actually use? Well, it's very simple. It's an ult buff and it's crit damage. And that's super easy. We cannot pierce the beatdown battle, so SHALLTEAR will not have a pierce skill, right? We know that for certain, because they're not going to give a unit a skill that directly opposes how the beatdown battle is supposed to run, who has pierce resistance. So let's see. Pierce resistance by 50% for the end of battle, or synergy resistance. So SHALLTEAR will not have pierce, will not have synergy. That is a given. So the best way to make her more universal is to give her an ult damage, like a generic 80% ult damage buff, and a 40 or 50% crit damage buff for magic allies. Because we have a few units that give crit damage to physical allies, right? We have the New Year's Shinsha. Well, actually, I think she's all buffed to physical, and then her crit is normal. But then we have the Warrior's Mind Violet, who is giving crit damage, right? Ult resistance down here, and then physical allies crit damage. We could see something like that, where it'd be 80 points. We already have ult resistance down from Albedo or Shizu, so this would just turn into ult damage. And then magic characters crit damage 40 or 50%. I mean, it wouldn't be too much of a jump. And, this is almost a year ago now, so power creep is a thing. So the easiest way I could see this happening is SHALLTEAR has still a crappy version of Despair with the green damage for one turn, and then a second skill, which is alt buff and magic crit damage. And would that save the meta? Not really, unfortunately. It certainly wouldn't save Albedo, because if we're not doing anything with Stun Strike, she's out. Like, she ain't being run. I'm going to run Shizuka or something for her attack buff, ult resistance down, and weakness strike. She's doing 3 things, and Albedo's doing 1 bad thing. So Shizuka is a much better option for Albedo. It's unfortunate people don't have her. I know idols weren't the best thing in the world to summon on, at least looking at it on paper, but Shizuka will be useful. Another option, again, like if SHALLTEAR has the alt buff, we no longer need Dark Milim. We could bring Dark Shinsha instead for the dark buff and the dark resistance down and the stacking crit resistance down. That's certainly an option, but you're losing an orb changer. And that's something I do not think SHALLTEAR will be, because people are like, we need a triple orb changer to greens, and even I was saying that. I wanted Albedo to have that, along with, a big time buff skill, and we got neither of those. So, I think Nabe is going to carry the bulk of the orb changing, because by the time we get ults, we have Shizu to swap 3 of them away, and then we're only left with, 3 orbs, and Nabe can certainly handle 3 orbs. So, I do not think SHALLTEAR would have an orb change of any type. She will probably have a Despair with some crappy effect, and she will most likely have an alt buff and crit damage, whether it's universal or it's just for magic allies. We'll have to see. But that's what I can expect out of SHALLTEAR. I don't think it'll save the Overlord collab. I think it'll make her a lot better than the other 3 distinct Overlord units. But I still think that, as a whole, I'm not really sure how I feel about this collab. It can certainly do damage, yes, but one of the units is borderline not useful. And then Nabe, again, if you take her off, is not overly good. Ainz is not overly good if you take him off. But if you ran this full team, you will probably do very good damage. But there are replacements for Albedo. There are replacements for Nabe, and maybe there will be a replacement for SHALLTEAR even when she comes out. We'll have to see. But that is my prediction for SHALLTEAR'S kit. I don't think it will fully on save the Overlord collab. I think people will still be a little bit irritated that they made Albedo bad, and that the Overlord like the actual Overlord units are not as strong as we wanted them to be. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know what other kind of skill that you would like SHALLTEAR to have that you think could save this team, or at least save Albedo. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.